The coffee in Commander Jake Morrison's cup had gone cold 3 hours ago, but he kept drinking it anyway. The night shift at Luna Station was usually quiet. Just routine checks on the deep space monitoring equipment and the occasional supply ship docking. Jake preferred it that way. After 15 years in the Space Force, he had seen enough action to last several lifetimes. The main console started beeping at exactly 0347 hours. Jake set down his cup and walked over to check the readings. The signal detector showed an incoming transmission from deep space, but something was wrong with it. The signal was weak and broken up, like someone trying to talk through a bad phone connection during a thunderstorm. "Computer, run Signal Enhancement Protocol 7, Jake said. The computer worked for several minutes, but the signal remained choppy. Jake could hear fragments of what sounded like voices, but they were unlike any human language he had ever heard. The sounds were musical, almost like singing. But there was something desperate about them. Jake picked up his communicator and called Dr. Lisa Rodriguez in the linguistics lab. Lisa had been studying alien languages for the past 10 years, even though humanity had never made contact with another intelligent species. Most people thought her work was a waste of time, but Jake respected her dedication. "Lisa, I need you in the main communications room right now," Jake said. "We have something strange." Dr. Rodriguez arrived within 5 minutes, still wearing her pajamas and carrying a tablet full of translation software. She was a small woman with black hair and tired eyes, but Jake knew she was the smartest person on the station when it came to languages. "What do we have?" Lisa asked, sitting down. "At the console, an unknown signal from deep space. The computer says it originated from somewhere in the direction of the constellation Lyra, but it's too far away to get an exact location." Jake explained. Lisa put on her headphones and listened to the signal for several minutes. Her face grew more serious as she worked with her translation programs. She made notes on her tablet and ran the signal through different filters. "Jake, this is not human," she said finally. "The vocal patterns are completely different from anything in our databases. But there's something else. The mathematical sequences embedded in the signal suggest this is some kind of distress call." Jake felt his stomach drop. In all his years of monitoring space, he had never encountered anything like this. "Are you sure?"
Yes.
"As sure as I can be without meeting them face to face," Lisa replied. "The signal repeats the same basic pattern over and over again. It's consistent with distress. Calls across all known communication protocols." Jake knew he had to contact Earth Command immediately. He opened a secure channel to Admiral Tony Blake at the Pentagon. The Admiral was probably asleep, but this could not wait until morning. Admiral Blake's face appeared on the screen after several minutes. He looked tired and annoyed at being woken up in the middle of the night. Blake was a big man with gray hair and scars on his face from the Mars mining wars 20 years earlier. "This better be important, Morrison," Blake said. "We have received what appears to be an alien distress signal," Jake said. "Dr. Rodriguez has confirmed it's not from any human source." The Admiral's expression changed immediately. He was fully awake now. "Send me everything you have. I'll be at the command center in 30 minutes. For the next 6 hours, Jake and Lisa worked with teams of experts from Earth to decode the alien message. Linguists, mathematicians, and computer specialists all contributed to the effort. Slowly, they began to understand what the aliens were trying to say. The message was simple but terrifying. The aliens called themselves the Etherian Collective. They were a peaceful group of 3 different species who lived together on several planets around a star called Kepler 442. They were being attacked by something they called the Void Hunters. The Void Hunters were described as a species that consumed other civilizations. They would arrive at a planet, strip away all its resources, and kill or capture all the inhabitants. The Etherians had been fighting them for 2 years, but they were losing badly.
"Help us,"
the message said when fully translated. "The Void Hunters consume all life. We're the last of our people. Our worlds are dying. Please, if anyone receives this message, help us. We are sending you the coordinates of our location." The coordinates showed that the Etherian Collective was located nearly farther 200 light-years from Earth. It was farther than any human had ever traveled, That the journey would take months, even with humanity's newest faster-than-light technology. Blake called an emergency meeting of the Global Defense Council. Representatives from every major nation on Earth gathered via video conference to discuss humanity's response to the alien distress call. Captain Ryan Cooper was the first military officer to speak. Cooper commanded the USS Defiance, one of Earth's most advanced warships. He was known for his aggressive tactics and his willingness to take risks when civilian lives were at stake. "We have to help them," Cooper said. "This is exactly the kind of situation our deep space fleet was designed for. We cannot sit here and do nothing while an entire civilization is being destroyed." Dr. Kate Williams disagreed. Leading expert on faster-than-light travel and the chief designer of the quantum slip drive, Williams was a cautious scientist who preferred to study problems carefully before taking action. "Captain Cooper, you're talking about sending our entire fleet to a location we have never visited to fight an enemy we know nothing about," Williams said. "The Void Hunters might be more powerful than we can imagine. We could be sending our people to their deaths." The debate continued for hours. Some representatives argued that humanity should focus on defending Earth rather than getting involved in alien conflicts. Others insisted that helping the Ethereans was the right thing to do, regardless of the risks. Admiral Blake listened to all the arguments before making his decision. He was quiet for a long time, staring at the translated alien message on his tablet. Finally, he looked up at the camera. "I've been a soldier for 40 years, Blake said. "I've fought in 3 wars and seen more death than any person should have to see. But I've also learned that the measure of a civilization is not how well it can protect itself, but how far it will go to protect others who cannot protect themselves." Blake stood up and addressed the entire council. "The Etherean Collective is crying for help from across the galaxy. They've never met us, but they are begging us to save them from extinction. If we turn our backs on them now, what does that say about who we are as a species?" The vote was close, but the decision was made. Humanity would mount the largest military expedition in its history to travel 1,200 light years and fight an unknown enemy to save a civilization they had never met. As the meeting ended and the representatives signed off their video calls, Jake Morrison remained in the communications room at Luna Station. He was still listening to the alien distress signal, which continued to repeat its desperate plea for help. "Don't worry," Jake said quietly to the empty room. "Earth is coming." The news spread across Earth like wildfire. Within hours of Admiral Blake's announcement, every major news network was broadcasting reports about humanity's first contact with alien life and the upcoming rescue mission. People gathered in the streets, in bars, and around television screens to discuss what this meant for the future of the human race. At the Norfolk Naval Base in Virginia, Admiral Sam Patterson was already working 18-hour days to prepare the largest space fleet in human history. Patterson was a veteran of the asteroid belt conflicts and had commanded more deep space missions than any other officer in the Space Force. His job was to turn Admiral Blake's decision into reality. "We have 3 weeks to get this fleet ready," Patterson told his staff during their first planning meeting. "That means 3 weeks to load supplies, brief the crews, and make sure every ship is running at peak efficiency. This is not a drill, people. We are going to war." The fleet would consist of 52 ships in total. Flagship USS Liberty would lead 12 heavy cruisers, each one capable of destroying a small moon with its main guns. 30 destroyers would provide fast attack capability and escort duty for the larger ships. 10 supply vessels would carry everything the fleet needed for a campaign that could last years. Captain Jenny Walsh commanded the USS Thunderbolt, one of the heavy cruisers in the fleet. I had served under Patterson during the Mars Rebellion and trusted his judgment completely. Her ship was armed with the latest plasma cannons and antimatter torpedoes that could punch through 3 feet of solid steel. "My crew is ready to fight," Walsh told Patterson during a commander's meeting. "We've been training for deep space combat. For 5 years, the Thunderbolt will not let you down." The ground forces were just as impressive as the space fleet. Colonel Maria Santos led 50,000 Marines who had trained in zero-gravity combat and planetary assault tactics. These were not ordinary soldiers. They were the best fighters humanity had ever produced, equipped with powered armor and weapons, designed to work in any environment. Santos was a tough woman, who had grown up in the slums of Mexico City before joining the military. She had fought in every major conflict of the past 15 years and had never lost a battle. Her Marines called her Iron Maria because she seemed impossible to kill. "My boys and girls are ready to kick some alien butt," Santos said during a briefing with the other commanders. "We've been studying the limited data we have on the Void Hunters. They're big and they're mean, but they bleed just like everything else." Dr. Alex Carter supervised the medical corps that would accompany the fleet. Carter was a battlefield surgeon who had saved thousands of lives during various conflicts around the solar system. His biggest challenge was preparing to treat injuries from unknown alien weapons and possibly provide medical care to alien allies. "We're going in blind," Carter admitted to his medical staff. "We don't know what kind of weapons the Void Hunters use or what kind of injuries they might cause. We don't even know if human medicine will work on Etherian biology. We'll have to figure it out as we go." The intelligence division was led by Commander Lisa Park, a former spy who had worked undercover on Mars during the mining wars. Job was to gather as much information as possible about the enemy before the fleet arrived at its destination. The Etherians described the Void Hunters as a hive mind species that uses biological ships. Park explained to the fleet commanders, "They seem to view other life forms as nothing more than resources to be harvested. That makes them extremely dangerous, but it also means they probably won't expect the kind of coordinated resistance we can provide." The biggest technical challenge was making sure all 52 ships could travel together using their quantum slip drives. Engineer Bobby Kim worked around the clock with teams of technicians to synchronize the complex systems that would allow the fleet to jump through space. Kim was a young genius who had designed much of the quantum slip drive technology. He was only 28 years old, but he understood faster-than-light travel better than anyone else on Earth. The success of the entire mission depended on his work. "The quantum slip drive is still experimental technology," Kim warned the commanders. "We've never attempted to jump this many ships at once over such a long distance. If even one ship gets lost in the dimensional void, it could destabilize the entire formation." President Helen Turner visited the fleet 3 days before departure. She walked through the ships, talking to the crews and thanking them for their service. Turner was the first female president of the United States and had been elected on a platform of international cooperation and space exploration. "You are about to make history," Turner told the assembled crews via video link to all 52 ships. "You will be the first humans to travel beyond our local group of stars. You will be the first to fight alongside alien allies against a common enemy. Most importantly, you will show the galaxy what humanity stands for." The president's speech was broadcast live to every nation on Earth. Billions of people watched. As she continued her address to the departing fleet, "We are the species that chose to answer a cry for help from strangers over 1,000 light-years away. We could have ignored that signal, could have focused on our own problems and our own safety. Instead, we chose to risk everything to save people we have never met. That is what makes us human." The final preparations were completed with 12 hours to spare. Supply ships delivered the last loads of ammunition, food, and medical supplies. Engineers ran final checks on all the quantum slip drives. The crews said goodbye to their families and friends, not knowing if they would ever see Earth again. Admiral Patterson stood on the bridge of the USS Liberty as the fleet prepared to depart. Through the viewport, he could see the other ships, arranged in perfect formation. Each vessel represented the finest technology and the bravest people humanity had to offer. "All ships report ready for quantum slip jump," announced the communications officer. Patterson took a deep breath. In a few minutes, the fleet would disappear into the space between dimensions and begin a journey that would take 6 months. When they emerged, they would be farther from home than any human had ever traveled. "Fleet command to all ships," Patterson said into his communicator. "Today, we make history. Today we show the galaxy that Earth keeps its promises. All ships engage quantum slip drives on my mark." The countdown began. Throughout the fleet, 52 crews prepared for the jump that would carry them across the galaxy to fight for the survival of an alien civilization. Mark Patterson said the space around Earth lit up with brilliant blue light as 52 ships disappeared into the quantum void, beginning humanity's first interstellar war. 6 months of traveling through the quantum void felt like an eternity to the crew of the human fleet. The ships had emerged from faster-than-light travel 3 times during the journey to check their position and make course corrections. Each time, they found themselves surrounded by stars that no human had ever seen before. Admiral Patterson stood on the bridge of the USS Liberty as the fleet prepared for its final jump into the Kepler 442 system. The crew had spent months training and preparing for what they might find, but nothing could have prepared them for the reality of what lay ahead. "All ships, prepare for system entry," Patterson announced over the fleet communication channel. "Remember, we don't know what we're jumping into." Battle stations immediately upon arrival. The quantum slip drives engaged one final time, and the human fleet emerged into normal space near the edge of the Kepler 442 system. What they saw through their viewports made even the most experienced veterans sick to their stomachs. 3 planets that had once supported billions of living beings were now dead rocks floating in space. The atmospheres had been stripped away, leaving behind gray, lifeless surfaces covered with massive scars where something had torn away. Huge chunks of the planetary crust. Lieutenant Commander Amy Foster was the fleet's best reconnaissance officer. She had served in the Outer System patrols for 10 years and had seen her share of destruction, but nothing like this. Her job was to scan the system and report what the Void Hunters had done to the Etherean worlds. "Admiral, I'm reading no life. Signs on planets 1, 2, or 3, Foster reported from her station. "The surfaces show evidence of massive strip mining operations. It looks like they've been sucking these worlds dry for at least 2 years. Captain Ryan Cooper commanded the destroyer USS Defiance and was serving as the fleet's advanced scout. His ship moved ahead of the main formation, using its advanced sensors to search for any signs of Etherean survivors or Void Hunter activity. "I'm picking up energy signatures from the 4th planet," Cooper reported. "There's some kind of large structure on the surface, and it's definitely artificial. Could be where the survivors are hiding." The 4th planet was smaller than Earth, but still capable of supporting life. Long-range sensors showed that it had once been covered with cities and farmland, but most of the surface was now barren wasteland. In the northern hemisphere, however, the scanners detected a massive dome structure that was still generating power. Dr. Kate Williams worked frantically at her science station aboard the Liberty, analyzing the data from the planet's surface. She had designed most of the sensor equipment the fleet was using, and she was the best person to interpret what they were seeing. "That dome is enormous," Williams told Admiral Patterson. "It's at least 50 miles across and appears to be some kind of environmental shelter. If there are any Ethereans left alive, they would be inside that structure." As the human fleet moved deeper into the system, their sensors began detecting movement near the 4th planet. What they found there made every person in the fleet understand why the Ethereans had called for help. Surrounding the planet were hundreds of ships unlike anything in human experience. The Void Hunter vessels were not built from metal and circuits like human ships. Instead, they appeared to be living creatures the size of skyscrapers, with dark, chitinous armor covering their hulls and organic weapons that pulsed with bioluminescent light. Commander Steve Harrison led the fleet's fighter squadrons and was responsible for gathering close-range intelligence on the enemy ships. His pilots had trained for years to fight against conventional spacecraft. But these biological vessels presented entirely new challenges. "These things are definitely alive," Harrison reported after his fighters completed their reconnaissance. "Run. They move like living creatures, and our sensors are detecting biological functions throughout their hulls. Some of them are big enough to carry thousands of troops." The largest of the Void Hunter's ships was positioned directly above the Etherean dome. It was massive beyond imagination, easily the size of a small moon, with tentacle-like appendages that reached down toward the planet's surface. This had to be their command ship, the vessel coordinating the final assault on the last Etherean stronghold. Captain Jenny Walsh commanded the heavy cruiser USS Thunderbolt and had been studying the enemy formation through her ship's tactical systems. As a veteran of multiple space battles, she could recognize a siege operation when she saw one. "Admiral, they're getting ready to finish off the survivors," Walsh reported. "That big ship is positioning itself for some kind of final attack. Don't think the dome can withstand much more punishment." Inside the dome, sensors detected approximately 10,000 life forms with biology similar to the etherian signals Earth had received. These were the last members of a civilization that had once numbered in the billions. They had held out for 2 years against impossible odds, but they were finally running out of time. Admiral Patterson gathered his senior officers for an emergency strategy meeting. The situation was worse than anyone had expected. The Void Hunters had overwhelming numbers, and their biological ships were completely different from anything the human fleet had trained to fight. "We're outnumbered at least 5-1, Patterson told his commanders. "Their ships are bigger than ours, and we don't know what kind of weapons they're carrying. But those people down there are counting on us, and we didn't come this far to turn around and go home." Colonel Santos had been monitoring the discussion from the Marine command ship. Her ground forces were ready to deploy, but first the fleet would have to fight its way through the Void Hunter blockade. "My Marines can handle whatever those things throw at us on the ground," Santos said. "But we need to get close enough to land first. That means going through their entire fleet." Dr. Carter was already preparing his medical teams for massive casualties. The human fleet was about to engage an unknown enemy with unknown weapons, and there was no telling how many people would be wounded or killed in the coming battle. "All medical stations are ready," Carter reported. "We've prepared for every type of injury we can imagine, but we're still going in blind against biological weapons we've never encountered." Patterson looked out at the Void Hunter fleet through the main viewport. Hundreds of massive bioships floated in space like a swarm of deadly insects, preparing to deliver the killing blow to the last surviving Etherians. The human fleet was vastly outnumbered, but they had come too far to back down now. "All ships, this is Admiral Patterson," he announced to the entire fleet. "We came here to answer a distress call from people who needed our help. Those people are still alive down there, and they're counting on us to save them. I don't care how big those ships are or how many of them there are. We're going to punch a hole right through their formation and show them what happens when you mess with innocent people." The human fleet began moving toward the Void Hunter swarm at maximum speed. Every ship had its weapons armed and ready. A few minutes, humanity would fight its first battle against an alien enemy, and the fate of an entire civilization would hang in the balance. "All ships prepare to engage the enemy," Patterson ordered. "Today we find out what humans are really made of." The first shots of humanity's first interstellar war came from Captain Jenny Walsh aboard the USS Thunderbolt. Her ship's plasma cannons lit up the darkness of space with brilliant white beams that sliced through 3 Void Hunter bioships before the aliens could react. The organic vessels exploded in clouds of green fluid and chitinous debris. "Direct hits on 3 targets," Walsh reported over the battle communications channel. "These things bleed just like everything else." The Void Hunter fleet responded immediately to the attack. The bioships moved with surprising speed for their size, turning toward the human fleet like a swarm of angry hornets. Their organic weapons began firing streams of corrosive acid and electromagnetic pulses that could disable electronic systems. Admiral Patterson watched from the bridge of the USS Liberty as his fleet dove into the alien swarm. The human ships were smaller than most of the Void Hunter vessels, but they were faster and more maneuverable. The key to victory would be using that speed advantage to stay ahead of the enemy's powerful weapons. "All ships, execute attack pattern," Delta, Patterson ordered. "Stay mobile and keep firing. Don't let them pin you down." The space battle quickly became the largest military engagement in human history. 52 human ships fought against hundreds of alien bio-vessels in a chaotic melee that stretched across thousands of miles of space. Plasma beams and antimatter torpedoes lit up the void as the 2 fleets tore into each other. Commander Steve Harrison led his fighter squadrons into the heart of the enemy formation. His pilots flew their small craft between the massive bioships like angry wasps, firing rockets and laser cannons at vital points on the alien hulls. The fighters were too small for the big ships to target effectively, but they could cause serious damage if they hit the right spots. Blue Squadron, target those weapon clusters on the big one, Harrison ordered his pilots. Red Squadron, follow me in on the command ship. We're going to make this personal. Captain Ryan Cooper commanded the destroyer USS Defiance as it weaved through the battle, picking off smaller Void Hunter ships with surgical precision. Cooper had always been an aggressive fighter, and he was in his element in the middle of this massive space battle. Defiance to all ships. I'm seeing weak points in their armor near what looks like sensory organs, Cooper reported. There, and they go down fast. The Void Hunters had never faced an enemy like humanity. Most species they encountered either surrendered immediately or fought with desperate but uncoordinated resistance. The human fleet fought with a level of tactical coordination and pure aggression that shocked the alien hive mind. On the surface of the fourth planet, Colonel Maria Santos led her Marines in a simultaneous assault on Void Hunter ground forces. The aliens had landed thousands of troops around the Aetherian Dome, preparing for the final assault on the survivors. Santos and her 50,000 Marines dropped from orbit in heavily armed transport ships, ready to fight for every inch of ground. The Void Hunter ground troops were nightmare creatures. 12 feet tall, with razor-sharp claws and acidic breath, they moved in perfect coordination, like parts of a single organism controlled by the hive mind. But they had never fought opponents who could match their ferocity and exceed their tactical skills. 1st Battalion, establish a perimeter around the dome, Santos ordered over the Marine Communication Network. 2nd and 3rd Battalions, push forward and clear those weapon positions. 4th Battalion, you're with me. Command Center. Sergeant Danny Miller held a crucial mountain pass with his squad of 12 Marines, preventing hundreds of Void Hunters from reaching the dome. Miller was a veteran of the Asteroid Belt Wars and had seen plenty of combat, but nothing like this. The aliens kept coming in waves, but his squad held their position for 6 hours straight. Miller to base. We've got about 1,000 of these. Things trying to get through the pass? Miller reported to his commanding officer. My boys are holding, but we're running low on ammunition. Hold that position, Sergeant, came the reply. Reinforcements are on the way. Miller looked at his tired Marines and grinned. You heard the man. We hold until help arrives, remember? We're not just fighting for ourselves. We're fighting for those people in the dome who are counting on us. Inside the dome, Dr. Alex Carter worked frantically to treat wounded Aetherians with medical techniques adapted for alien biology. The survivors were unlike anything he had ever seen, with translucent skin and organs that glowed with soft bioluminescent light. Despite their alien appearance, Carter could see the fear and hope in their large eyes. Doctor, we have more wounded coming in, called one of his medics. Some kind of acid burns from the Void Hunter weapons. Carter had been treating similar injuries for hours, learning alien anatomy through trial and error. Use the neutralizing agent we developed for the Marine casualties, he instructed. Their body chemistry is different from ours, but the basic principles are the same. The Aetherian survivors watched in amazement as human medical teams worked to save their people. These aliens had traveled over 1,000 light-years to help strangers. Now they were risking their lives to protect the last members of the Aetherian collective, the turning point in the space. Battle came when Admiral Patterson made a decision that would be remembered for centuries. The Void Hunter mothership, a creature the size of a small moon, was positioning itself to destroy the dome with its main weapon. If that ship succeeded, the entire rescue mission would fail. All ships. This is Admiral Patterson, he announced over the fleet communication channel. I'm taking the Liberty on a direct attack run against the mothership. Continue the battle and protect the evacuation ships. Captain Walsh aboard the Thunderbolt immediately protested. Admiral, that's suicide. The Liberty can't take on that thing alone. Maybe not, Patterson replied. But we can hurt it enough to save those people down there. All hands abandoned ship and transferred to the escort vessels. Set the quantum drive to overload. The crew of the USS Liberty worked frantically to evacuate their ship while Patterson remained at the helm. He guided the flagship toward the massive abyss. Mothership, as its organic weapons fired streams of acid and energy blasts at the approaching human vessel. "Liberty to fleet? Tell Earth that we answered the call," Patterson said, as his ship approached the alien command vessel. "Tell them humanity keeps its promises." The USS Liberty struck the Void Hunter mothership at full speed, just as its quantum drive exploded. The blast was visible from anywhere in the system. A brilliant flash of light that vaporized both ships and sent shockwaves through the alien fleet, with their mothership destroyed and their hive mind disrupted. The remaining Void Hunters began to retreat in confusion. The perfect coordination that had made them so deadly was gone, and the human fleet pressed their advantage ruthlessly. "All ships, pursue and destroy," came the order from the new fleet commander. "Don't let any of them escape." The battle continued for another hour, but the outcome was no longer in doubt. Humanity had achieved complete victory against impossible odds, proving that courage and determination could overcome any enemy. The rescue mission had succeeded, but the cost had been higher than anyone wanted to pay. The silence that followed the battle was almost as shocking as the violence that came before it. For 18 hours, the Kepler 442 system had been filled with the sounds of war, explosions, weapon fire, and the screams of dying ships. Now, there was only the quiet hum of human vessels as they moved through the debris field that had once been the Void Hunter fleet. Captain Jenny Walsh stood on the bridge of the USS Thunderbolt, now serving as the temporary fleet commander after Admiral Patterson's sacrifice. Through her viewport, she could see the wreckage of hundreds of bioships floating in space, like the remains of some massive sea creature that had been torn apart by sharks. "Casualty report," Walsh ordered her communications officer. 7 ships. "Lost, ma'am. 3,412 casualties, including Admiral Patterson and his crew." The Marine Forces report 215 dead, 800 wounded. Walsh felt the weight of command settle on her shoulders. These numbers represented friends and colleagues who had traveled across the galaxy to help strangers and paid the ultimate price for their compassion. Their sacrifice would not be forgotten. On the surface of the 4th planet, Colonel Maria Santos walked through the Etherean dome with a mixture of wonder and sadness. The structure was a marvel of engineering, a 50-mile-wide bubble that had protected the last survivors of 3 different species for over 2 years. The Ethereans themselves were beautiful and graceful beings, with translucent skin that glowed softly in the dim light of their artificial environment. They moved with fluid motions and communicated through harmonious musical tones that Dr. Lisa Rodriguez was slowly learning to translate. Colonel Santos Rodriguez called out as she approached with her translation equipment. "The Etherean Elder wants to speak with you? I think you'll want to hear this." The Elder was an ancient being whose skin shimmered with colors that had no names in human language. When it spoke, the words came out as complex musical patterns that Rodriguez's computer translated into English. "Your species has done something that we thought was impossible in this galaxy," the translation device said in a mechanical voice. "You traveled farther than any civilization has ever traveled to help people you had never met. In all our records of galactic history, no species has ever shown such compassion backed by such incredible strength." Santos looked around the dome at the thousands of Etherean survivors. Many of them were children, or at least what appeared to be children based on their smaller size and brighter skin colors. They watched the human Marines with large eyes full of curiosity and gratitude. "We heard your call for help," Santos replied simply. "Where we come from, when someone needs help, you give it. That's what makes us human." The Etherean Elder's skin shifted to deeper shades of blue and purple, which Rodriguez's computer indicated was a sign of deep respect and amazement. "We have much to learn from your people," the Elder said. "And perhaps we have things to teach you as well. Our scientists have developed technologies that could help both our civilizations grow stronger together." Back in space, Captain Ryan Cooper was now commanding the advanced scout ships as they swept the system for any remaining Void Hunter vessels. Most of the aliens had fled after their mothership was destroyed, but Cooper wanted to make sure none were hiding behind asteroids or moons. "All clear in Sector 7, Cooper reported to Captain Walsh. "Looks like the survivors decided to run for home. I don't think we'll be seeing them again anytime soon." Dr. Kate Williams was already working with Etherean scientists to establish the first joint research station on the planet's surface. The aliens had advanced knowledge of terraforming and environmental engineering that could help humanity colonize new worlds. While human military technology could protect peaceful civilizations from aggressive species like the Void Hunters, the possibilities are endless, Williams told Walsh during a video conference from the planet's surface. They've been studying faster-than-light travel for thousands of years. Their methods are completely different from ours. But if we combine our technologies, we could build ships that travel twice as fast as anything we have now. Dr. Alex Carter spent his time setting up a permanent medical facility inside the dome. The Ethereans had suffered terrible losses during the 2-year siege, and many of the survivors needed long-term medical care. Carter's team worked alongside Etherean healers to develop new treatments that worked for both human and alien biology. "It's amazing how similar we are underneath," Carter told his medical staff. "Their organs are in different places, and they glow in the dark, but the basic principles of life are the same. We can definitely work together on this." News of the victory spread throughout the galaxy faster than anyone expected. The Ethereans had been part of a loose network of peaceful civilizations that communicated across interstellar distances using quantum transmissions. Within weeks of the battle, other species began sending messages to Earth. The Zephyrian Republic was a confederation of bird-like creatures who controlled 12 star systems. They had been hiding from the Void Hunters for decades, but now they wanted to meet the species that had defeated the galaxy's most feared predators. The Crystalline Collective was even more. Exotic living rocks that had achieved sentience and built a civilization based on harmonic resonance. They had been among the first species to fall victim to Void Hunter attacks. But small groups had survived in hidden asteroid bases. Captain Walsh found herself negotiating with representatives from dozens of different species, all of whom wanted to form alliances with humanity. Within 6 months, Earth had become the center of the largest interstellar alliance in galactic history. The Galactic Defense Coalition was born from these negotiations. Humanity would provide military protection and advanced weapons technology, while the other species contributed their own scientific knowledge and resources. Together, they would patrol the galaxy and protect peaceful civilizations from aggressive threats. 5 years later, Admiral Ryan Cooper commanded a fleet of 200 ships from a dozen different species. Human vessels flew alongside Etherean bioships and crystalline resonance cruisers, all working together to keep the peace in their corner of the galaxy. The memorial on Luna Station honored all the humans who had died in the Kepler 442 battle. Admiral Patterson's name was at the top of the list, followed by the 3,000 others who had given their lives to save strangers from across the galaxy. The inscription was simple, but powerful. To those who heard a cry for help from across the void and chose to answer, the galaxy is safer because humanity chose compassion over indifference. Dr. Lisa Rodriguez, now serving as Earth's first ambassador to the Galactic Defense Coalition, often stood before that memorial when she visited Luna Station. She remembered the night when Jake Morrison first detected the alien signal and how one distress call had changed the course of human history in the depths of space. Human patrol ships continued to monitor the quantum communication networks for any signs of trouble. Whenever a new distress signal was detected, the response was always the same. "This is Earth Defense Fleet. We received your signal. Help is on the way." Humanity had found its place among the stars, not as conquerors, but as protectors. They were the species that answered when others called for help, no matter how far they had to travel or how dangerous the mission might be. The galaxy was a safer place, because humans had learned long ago that the measure of a civilization was not how well it could protect itself, but how far it would go to protect others who could not protect themselves.